What if Germany won World War II? It's the most popular alternate history ever. Welcome to Thousand Week Reich, a HOI4 mod that takes a commonly asked historical question and presents it in a realistic setting within HOI4. Known for its unique blend of a realistic Axis victory scenario alongside a familiar HOI4 gameplay loop that draws in mainstream HOI4 players, Thousand Week Reich is well regarded within the community as a solid major mod that may not be renowned as one of the best, but rather a staple in the community. However, its overall lack of content quantity and outdatedness as a result of manpower shortages have led to criticism for fans, with many citing this as a hamperment in Thousand Week Reich's potential as a top mod. As such, today we will explore the good and the bad of a mod that has become well known within the community. The most identifying feature of Thousand Week Reich is its realistic setting. From its original foundation as a map series on Reddit to the modern day mod it is today, the mentality behind Thousand Week Reich has always been to take the overused Axis victory scenario and give it a refreshing spin towards realism. Typically, HOI4 alternate history scenarios who attempt to be realistic are shunned within the community, as it usually represents a shift towards realism away from fun content. Yet Thousand Week Reich is different. That's because realism has been the focus from the very beginning, meaning it's not pretending to be a wacky mod, but rather states clearly its intentions. This consistent emphasis of Thousand Week Reich's brand as a realistic scenario has played to its advantage, as its relative plausibility in its setting compared to Cold War Iron Curtain and TNO allow for a broader dive for mainstream HOI4 players who want to dip their toes into a Cold War alternate history mod but don't want the wackiness of a TNO game. We can see this in elements such as the relatively familiar setup of Africa, a less fragmented Russia, a defeated Japan, and a traditional America. It is these elements embedded in Thousand Week Reich's setting that draws in more traditional players, allowing the initial captivation of the mod towards its target audience. The familiar gameplay loop similar to HOI4 Vanilla is another striking feature of Thousand Week Reich. Thousand Week Reich is unique that for its setting, its overall gameplay and content is one more familiar to mainstream HOI4 players, that reverberates with the Vanilla Plus concept seen in mods like Kaiserreich and Equestria at War. Now this is exceptionally interesting, as total conversion mods set in other time periods, particularly Cold War mods, usually attempt to steer away from the nature of a default HOI4 game and turn it into an almost entirely different one instead. Yet for Thousand Week Reich, it works. For instance, Thousand Week Reich understands that HOI4 at its core is a war game, and rather than fundamentally changing a core aspect of HOI4 to fit its vision of a Cold War game, it does the opposite, giving the player the option to engage in meaningful and important conflicts, such as the ability to intervene in the German Civil War as the USA. By doing this, Thousand Week Reich is able to avoid a rather new phenomenon of war slop, whilst also maintaining a consistent presence of player-driven conflict within the game. It's not just war that is familiar, it's the simple mechanics, areas such as the tech tree, and a much more grounded direction in content, which give players a much more simpler time whilst they play their favourite tag. Compared to TNO, Thousand Week Reich is a lot less content heavy. Its content appears small, and in many cases lacking, leading to games where players are left with not much to do and having to deal with boring playthroughs. Now, Thousand Week Reich does try to compensate for this through choice and meaning to ensure players have fun. Every focus in game is intended to ensure appropriate game impact, and of the few minigames the Thousand Week Reich team adds, they are purposely crafted to add actual substance to the game rather than existing for the sake of flavor. Whilst the overall lack of relative content does lead to shallow playthroughs, the adjustment in content weight allows Thousand Week Reich to avoid bloat, giving a clean playthrough with simple and succinct choices. Additionally, similar to Old World Blues, Thousand Week Reich does not include many DLC mechanics for the sake of bloat also, which whilst it does work, it's highly unpopular for many people, as they believe it takes away from the small areas of content within the game. This is because, whilst the game does assign more impact to each piece of content, unfortunately in this case, quantity is not enough to be surpassed by the quality, leading to playthroughs that can feel underwhelming. Furthermore, the choices in Thousand Week Reich are engineered to engage and construct player agency. In Thousand Week Reich, content is much less railroaded. Players have the ability to make crucial choices that can make or break a game. From being able to avoid the German Civil War as Germany, to invading the continent as the Toronto Accord, Thousand Week Reich understands that its mod isn't suited towards telling a story, and allows the player to craft their own instead. It's this compensation of content with meaning, along with the highlighting of player agency, that has Thousand Week Reich attempt to keep its limited content engaging, albeit with limited success. Development from Thousand Week Reich is slow. That's largely due to the small size of the developer team, with about a dozen active team members, to the point where coders are doing GFX and writing. We can see the effect of these manpower shortages in the quality and quantity of the content. For instance, Germany, the main character of the mod, has been largely untouched since release. Japan had its content removed without replacement because 1.0 ballooned and was delayed, causing the content to rework to replace it to be pushed back. These examples are all due to the lack of manpower within the team, to the point where development is now concentrated on certain regions for upcoming updates, rather than spread out methodically all at once. This issue of manpower is Thousand Week Reich's largest issue, as the sheer immense amount of time and energy taken to release updates has caused limitation in the quantity of content present in the mod, which is a core complaint for many. Furthermore, the Thousand Week Reich team's manpower shortages have led to insane bloat in terms of bugs, and also just take a look at the error log in Thousand Week Reich, it's absolutely massive. The lack of a large team means that ironing out bugs and issues takes more time. Additionally, due to the smaller quantity of developers, Thousand Week Reich's developer team is heavily decentralized. There are no teams, no team leads, and decisions are made by consensus. This makes sense, as for a team of such a small size, having a communal structure rather than one led by authority allows what little devs are there to exercise greater creative freedom. However, this communal decision system is typically exclusive to senior developers and team members, leading to trouble for new developers trying to fit into the system. All in all, the lack of content that is a direct result of manpower will continue Thousand Week Reich's current but slow trajectory. Thousand Week Reich is a mod that hasn't changed too much over the years. Its founding emphasis on realism, its manpower shortages, and the overall state of the mod are largely consistent with its release, with elements such as its familiar gameplay loop and its unique setting remaining much of the same. This allows greater appeal to mainstream HOI4 players, yet its lack of content and occasional underwhelmingness caused by its manpower shortages are the core reason holding it back from being a top mod, leaving the mod in a constant solid state where it is in the upper echelon of mods but never at the top. All in all, only time will tell if Thousand Week Reich will stay as it is, or will it finally break out of its mid-tier reputation. Ever wanted to play Thousand Week Reich in your browser? Well, check out Pax Historia, an AI-powered alternate history grand strategy browser-based sandbox game. Players choose a nation at a specific point in time to rewrite history through interactive AI-driven storytelling, with options ranging from real historical scenarios to hypothetical events like alien invasions. Check them out in the description below.